of Social Stock Exchange is about facilitating the functioning of non-profit organizations or social enterprises because they are doing an important work in the overall process of becoming Viksit Bharat because they provide the last mile connectivity, they work at the grassroots level, and therefore they play a very important role in the whole process of inclusive development. That is all that we are looking for in the process of becoming a Viksit Bharat. So the social stock exchange got operationalized and started functioning in India by way of SEBI regulations amendment, which came out by way of a notification on 25th of July 2022. So it's been almost 3.5 years now that the social stock exchange had been operating in India in both BSE as well as NSE stock exchanges. Now, we talk to a lot of non-profit organizations by way of these kind of awareness programs and capacity building programs. And we find that the three key problems that social enterprises face in India are number one, credibility. There is some sort of trust deficit. People give donations. Each one of us, every one of us gives donations, maybe to one or two, three organizations every year. But sometimes there is doubt in our mind as to, I don't know where my money is getting spent, whether it's getting spent properly or not, because I don't get any kind of feedback, any kind of report. So there is some element of trust deficit or credibility issue in their relationship with their stakeholders. The second issue that they are facing is that of visibility. A non-profit organization working in a particular area may be well known within the boundary of 50, 100 kilometers around, but beyond that, probably nobody knows about their work, about their organization. And the third key problem that they are facing is that of financing. You have to time and again check out with the donors, do pitching, try to get the funds for the projects every year. Same set of people may not continue to provide you funds year after year. And that's a perpetual challenge of providing required amount of funds for different projects that the NPOs face in the marketplace. So in order to provide support to NPOs in the great work that they are doing for building up Viksit Bharat, Honorable Finance Minister of India proposed in her budget speech of 2019 that we must provide the facilitation of social stock exchange for connecting NPOs with the capital market. Because once a social enterprise gets registered on the social stock exchange, its credibility automatically goes up. That's because the whole process of registration at BSE as well as NSE involves very, very deep, careful due diligence. Someone who passes through that scrutiny and his name gets etched on the website of NSE or BSE, it automatically provides you credibility as well as visibility. And then subsequently, you can raise the funds through the platform of social stock exchange by the process of listing, and that provides you an alternate source of funding for your various projects. So all the three key problems that the NPO face in the marketplace, credibility, visibility, and funding, are to a great extent taken care of by and through the architecture of social stock exchange. But then, if some particular architecture or system provides you benefits, there are also some obligations cast on you. And here in the case of social stock exchange, the obligations are in terms of the various compliances which are required to be
और
done by
आपके
social
पास
enterprises,
आदमी नहीं रहेगा तो आप मन
which
का
are
लाने को
either
चाहिए
registered
पीजिएगा क्या
or
कीजिएगा
listed on social stock exchange. So we've been organizing these kind of webinars regularly. In the previous 3 webinars that we have organized, we talked about how to register, how to list, how to prepare the draft fundraising document. And now we thought we will do a webinar today on the compliances required to be met for those social enterprises which are either registered or listed on the social stock exchange. And to talk about that in detail, may I now request the first co-panelist here on this webinar, Madam Sheena Gandhi. She looks after the social stock exchange domain in the Mumbai Stock Exchange. Madam, welcome to this webinar being organized by ICMAI Social Lotus Organization. I would request you to kindly take us through the various compliances which are mandated by the stock exchanges for the social enterprises which are either registered, and secondly, if they are listed, what are the compliances that they have to carry out in the whole process. Over to Madam Gandhi, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the webinar. I've been at BSC for the last 18 months, and we've seen a lot of movement that's actually happened in the social stock exchange.
Yes.
There's a lot of change that has also happened in the regulation,
Right.
of which, but just taking a leaf out of Dr. Gupta's pillars on credibility, visibility, and fundraising. I do want to spend just a little bit time also building on what are some of the other benefits that the Bombay Stock Exchange or the social stock exchange actually allows not-for-profits to have. We all also know that there are small and large not-for-profits, right? While, yes, a social impact assessment, this being on social stock exchange, besides it giving you credibility, not just registration, but actually raising money on the platform by itself gives you a lot of visibility. It gives you a lot of fundraising avenues to be able to tap into 12 crore a demat accounts that exist, right? And that is sort of the opportunity of growth, right? That we need not-for-profits to keep looking at it. We're putting a lot of effort to make sure that we're talking about the social stock exchange with the investor group. I know it's always a question. Most people ask me, where are the investors, right? Or the donors? And there are people that are there. There is access. There is a way to be able to tap into that. However, I believe that you need to have that growth and opportunity mindset to be able to access that. This also, therefore, once you have raised money, it really builds a lot of donor confidence. I know organizations that have listed, they were not getting funding from a particular FCRA international donor. And suddenly, because they listed on the social stock exchange, that opened up avenues for them, right? So one piece I do want to really outline here is the fact that it is a big opportunity. It is at its nascent stage. There are lots of changes happening, which I will share a little bit more about. But I think we have to be able to look at it how Dr. Gupta was talking about Viksit Bharat. I think that's the opportunity and that's the growth mindset that we need to look at. And the idea is not to do away with other fundraising avenues. It's to diversify, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket, to be able to really diversify beyond that. The second point that I do want to share, and if you would allow me, I would like to just share my presentation, is we've, in the last 18 months that I've been at BSC, we've seen many organizations. We've got about 100 plus organizations that have registered or have gone through the registration cycle. We've had a few listings as well. We have many in the pipeline as well. And a couple of things that I want to pause and I think it's important to know that preparation is far better when done in advance. So four things that I would like to share here is, one is preparedness. I think please go through the eligibility. The checklists are very simple. It's not very difficult. I'm sure that each one of you have your trust deed or your society documents. Your 12A compliance is today a big question mark for a lot of not-for-profits. So have a lot of your compliance documents in place, right? Get your board approvals in advance. Maintain a strong M&E. Now, yes, these look like very basics and most not-for-profits would have it, but I think keeping it all together before you take on this journey, it makes sure that you're not overwhelmed. I think the other second piece is understanding what is the time commitment of each, not just the leadership or the board members, but also your other teams that you're going to have to collaborate with, whether it's your fundraising team, your program team. in understanding what is the time that it actually takes to be able to create that document, talk to a few peers, right? Build in that buffer time. The fundraising piece, that's the reason why you're here. Yeah. There have been lots of changes, which I'll take you through, but I think the minimum is now 50 lakhs. It's been like that over the last at least 18 months or more. Understanding what are some of the fundraising requirements, whether it is talking to BSC, we're happy to talk to you and take you through what is the sort of requirement for there, how you build your proposal, collaborate internally to figure out your LFA, your theory of change, your strategic implementation plan, exactly how will it really pan out, right? And begin, when you start doing this, begin having a conversation with your funders. You don't need to have this conversation with the funders right when your issue time is right. I think we've learned over the years that building that communication with funders is an integral part, and they're the ones who are going to springboard you, especially donors that have been with you for a very long time, will believe in your growth story. And I keep coming back to the growth story because I feel that this is where with the money that you raise on SSC, if you want to take one project to a different geography, if you want to build and go deeper with a particular project, lot of this is very, very possible to do in the way that the social stock exchange is structured. And the last one, which is what I know is a pain point with a lot of not-for-profits when they think about social stock exchange, is it is up to you. SEBI regulations don't define that you have to have a merchant banker. You may have a company secretary, or you may want to hire a consultant or an advisor, okay, to talk about or work with you for this draft fundraising document. Because it follows the mechanism of an IPO, registrars and depositories are important. Please note, a lot of these registrars that are doing social stock exchange listings today are not charging a lot of money that they charge for the actual IPOs or company IPOs. These are a lot of them, they have also considered and brought those rates down. There is an escrow bank account opening that does happen, that is where the funds actually get allocated and sit. So that is required. And of course, a social auditor, which some of you, of course, in the audience are there. Where we have come a long way is to be able to also add in your draft fundraising document these costs. Marketing of the issue costs can be put in, issue related costs can be put in, as well as the social auditor costs can also be included. So please keep in mind, the idea is not to burden the not-for-profits. The idea is to enable you to come and utilize the platform as much as possible. So I am going to now quickly jump into why Dr. Gupta called me in the first place. After setting this up, most of you would be familiar, like he's mentioned, there's a registration, which is the first stepping stone to getting onto the social stock exchange. At BSC, I can only speak for BSC. It is a simple process. Post that, you can decide within about a period of 2 years that you want to raise money on BSC. There is a special instrument called Zero Coupon Zero Principal. That is the instrument by which the segment is actually utilized. I'm going to just jump the for-profit enterprises here. So some of these compliances have stayed the same. One, when you come in, there is 17 broad areas that you have to focus on. There is an inclusion, okay, of one more that SEBI has recently in the last 8-9 months included, is to bring in the CSR section, Schedule 7, which outlines the 10 activities. So it's actually now, if you go onto the BSC Social Stock Exchange website, you'll be able to see all those broad areas as well as the Section 7. We're hoping that at CSR will come at some point, but till we get it in black and white, the focus area is there. Of course, you have to showcase your 67% of expenditure through your ITRs. Those are required, those are mandated. There's an entire checklist where you need to be able to give us board approvals, ITRs, also define, okay, target. How are you targeting the underserved and the less privileged? A lot of organizations may not have done previously impact studies for their projects, right? Which is fine, but we still need you to be able to document and showcase whether it is in aspirational districts, whether it is in tribal areas, whether it is as part of some of the priorities of the state or the central government. We need you to be able to define that, because that helps us to be able to share. If you have annual reports, if you have accreditations, please do share that as other documents that come in. Where the eligibility very clearly is, of course, you have to have your trust deed, your company, if you're a Section 8 or a society. 3-year track record is a requirement. We need your ITRs, not just acknowledgement. We actually need the entire ITRs because we review it. Like I mentioned earlier, we need a valid 12A. That has to be valid as per SEBI framework, has to be valid for a period of 12 months. I know many of you are waiting for your 12A right now, and I do hope that my March 31st it comes. When it does come, please do share that as part of the registration process itself, right? And of course, the ATG and a Darpan ID. If you have your FCRA, your CSR certificate, please do, you can share those, because those help us build that level when we are verifying and validating those documents, right? And of course, you have to have a minimum annual spending of 50 lakhs. There are organizations that are barred. I'll give you an example of corporate foundations, which means that 50% of your, if you're an organization where 50% of your funding is coming from one, say, corporate source, then we do qualify you as an organization that that cannot register on SSC. What's the interesting piece is that at BSc, the registration process is quite simple. If you have all your documentation, you've done all your pre-work, within 15 days, we have given organizations registration. But do keep all your documentation and everything in place. And keep that buffer time for us to be able to ask certain queries, especially where I've seen people not be able to share these information is on which is the underprivileged population, that segments that you're looking into, what are those broad areas. Even if you have an annual report, please do share that with us, right? As BSc, we've taken a concerted decision to only charge a one-time registration fee of about 5,000 rupees. We give you validation for 2 years. And of course, like Dr. Gupta said, your name gets displayed on the BSc SSC website under the list of registered not-for-profits. So on the compliances pieces, this tends to always overwhelm a lot of not-for-profits. I would like to assure you that if you continue to stay registered for the first year that you have registered, annually you need to be able to share with us your, of course, your ITRs and your financial disclosures. There is 2 forms that are required only for registered entities to provide to us, which is a form 1A and 1B, right? Those are self-reported forms. Okay, how you do your annual report for the year, that is exactly how the forms are filled out. There are, of course, timelines for these, but the other change that SEBI has brought about, which happened late last year, was that earlier the disclosure submissions were about 60 days prior. Today, the financial disclosures, because we understand that the audits happen only in August, September for not-for-profits, the deadline has been moved to about 180 days of the financial year end, which gives you a buffer time to be able to, and is now in sync and in line with the not-for-profit calendar. There's also an event-based what they mean essentially by that is if you have a change of directorship, or if there's any senior management change or anything untoward that has happened, you have to be able to inform us within 7 days of that happening, right? Just moving quickly to the listing process. I want to just spend, before I jump into the compliance, there are key changes that are happening in this. Most of you know about the zero coupon, zero principal as the instrument to raise money on the exchange. Last year, there was a change. It moved from making it really affordable because we wanted more and more retail investors to participate. It was brought down from 10,000 rupees to a minimum of 1,000 rupees. UPI was integrated, was brought in because we wanted investors who can quickly through the app, through their, say, Zerodha app, contribute to a listing that happens, and for as little as 1,000 rupees. The threshold, of course, stays the same over the last 18 months. It's about 50 lakhs. It's in DMAT format. And of course, there's no trading allowed for listed. One key change that is about to come up. There is a SEBI consultation paper that is out currently that is talking about three key aspects. One is about alternate investment funds, by which if you are an investor want to invest in that impact fund in an AIF, you have to contribute 2 lakhs, right? Now, what they are in the works right now, because the consultation paper is still out, is to reduce that threshold to and make it equal to 1,000, which you will do, which you have with the zero coupon, zero principles, right? The second piece is on the registration, is to say that if, say, on BSE, you come register for 2 years and say you are unable to raise funds, right? Now, the extension is to extend by another year, right? So that's been asked for comments and consultation, and I would request everyone on this webinar to please comment on that. I'm happy. I'm sure that Dr. Gupta will have the links for it. And the third one, which I think is monumental, is to bring down the minimum issue subscription. The issue subscription right now is 75%, which essentially means that if you raise a crore, you have to, for a successful subscription, raise 75 lakhs, not 74.5, 75 lakhs, right? Now, the recommendation that has come through is to reduce that to a minimum of 50%. So I would really urge all of you to really go and please give your comments on that as well. Auto termination stays the same. Either you met your objective or your tenure is over, after which you, of course, have to go into your compliances. Two key ones, besides, in addition to the annual one, because you have raised money on the exchange, you will have to do one quarterly fund utilization. So if you've raised 1 crore and every quarter you've decided to spend 25 lakhs, for that first quarter, within 45 days of the quarter getting over, you have to be able to submit that statement of utilization to the exchange basis on what the money has been raised for, which is where it's important for your draft fundraising document to have a very, very clear logic model framework as well as a strategic implementation plan, because then it is in line with the compliances as well. And please understand, these are investors. They are interested in knowing what the progress is on the project. So this gives them that understanding, and therefore also building that credibility for you as an organization. And the last one, I'm not going to delve too much into this because our next speaker is an impact assessor, so I'm sure she's going to go into far more depth, is to be able to give that annual impact. Say you have a 2-year project. So when does this annual impact assessment happen? You have to submit this within 90 days annually, which means April 90 days from 1st of April, right? So it has to be done annually, it has to be done yearly. And if you have a 2-year project, you'll have to see exactly how many annual impact reports you need to be able to do to submit to the stock exchange. Now, these are compliance requirements and they need to be adhered to. If you are a listed entities, none of it is self-reported. That's only for the registered entities. Here it is the fund utilization that you give to most of your donors as well, okay, as well as the annual impact report, in addition to your financial and other organizational disclosures that need to be given by 31st of October, right? Which is in line with your income tax filing as well. So I'm going to just pause here and stop sharing. Thank you, Dr. Gupta.
So much, Madam Sheena Gandhi, for giving us clear indication of what social stock exchange processes are in brief, and also talking about the compliance requirements, which are fairly simple, but then you are going to get a lot of benefits from the platform of social stock exchange. On the corresponding side, other side, there are going to be some obligations also, which is always there in any kind of regulatory architecture and framework. So thank you so much. We'll have the other speaker now to talk about the social impact assessment, the whole process involved, and how NPOs should prepare for the social impact. Social impact assessors should look at going through and doing the work of SIA or social impact assessor. We have our next panelist here or speaker, Madam Prajakta from Blue Sky LLP. Their company or their firm is registered with ICMAI SAO. She is actually currently doing social impact assessment for various NPOs. I would request Madam Prajakta to take us through the process involved in brief over the next 15-20 minutes, and thereafter we're going to have an open session where all of us will take any queries that the participants may have with regard to the topic that we are discussing. Over to Madam Prajakta, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. S.K. Gupta, and thank you to Sheena ma'am as well for walking us through in detail on what are the compliances that are required on the social stock exchange. The topic, as Dr. S.K. Gupta introduced, I am going to cover is some detailing on what does the social impact assessment involve, how do we prepare for some of the listing documentation also, which will need a lot of input in terms of the impact that the organization is creating, even at the fundraising stage. So I'll share my presentation a little bit about myself. I am Prajakta. I am a part of the co-founder at Blue Sky CSR. We are an empaneled entity with ICMAI SAO, and I have also had the opportunity of conducting the first social impact assessment, which I did for Unnati, which was the first ever listed organization on the social stock exchange. So on that note, I have a short presentation and let me just share my screen, and then I'll be happy to take any questions. Okay, is my screen share visible? I think so. Okay, thank you so much for that, confirming that. So basically, why impact assessment matters more than ever on the social stock exchange. We know that impact is a regulated disclosure. We are having social stock exchange move the conversations from just good intent with which we want to do social good to actually verifiable impact. And like Dr. S.K. Gupta talked at the beginning of the presentation when introducing the topic, that credibility is the key metric or the key currency that really drives social impact organizations. So the enabler for that is impact assessment to drive investor trust, comparability across different issuers, and also accountability when we are raising funds. So with that, I come to the bigger picture. So the good part is that when the social stock exchange was being put together, there has been thought put into what should our impact architecture on the social stock exchange look like. For the ones amongst us who have been engaged in social impact assessments, like I do social impact assessments for corporate CSRs also. So in that context, we know that there are various frameworks, there are various methodologies that are available. So it's a good thing that a certain boundary condition has been established in terms of what should count as social impact, what are the formats for it. So let me walk you through that really quickly. So in terms of the impact architecture, there are three broad areas. So first, the first time you will talk about the impact that your organization is creating is at the fundraising document level, is what you have been doing, and basis that, what are you promising to deliver when you are coming to the social stock exchange to raise funds. Then a part of that is also the solution implementation plan. That is, if let's say you're raising an X amount for doing activity, how is it that you actually intend to use that money? What kind of activities do you intend to do? What kind of outcomes do you intend to see? And the third part is the impact reporting and assessment that happens after you have raised the money, which, as Sheena talked about, is going to happen at a certain cadence as per the compliance requirement. So we are looking at the larger architecture in terms of the FRD, the solution implementation plan, that's to talk the language of the impact, and finally, what impact are we reporting through the impact assessment. Moving forward, in terms of the in terms of the solution implementation plan, just highlighting a few things that as we start speaking the language of impact when we are talking to our investors, is a clear problem statement that what are we trying to solve for by raising the money, a clear identification of what are going to be our inputs, what are going to be our activities, what are going to be the outputs. So all of that very clearly defined. KPIs that will measure these different areas, who will benefit, how much change will occur, who's prioritized, and what is the inclusion? Like, are there specific districts that we are looking at, which are also aspirational districts? So talking in that language is something that will set the context of what are we going to deliver in terms of the impact. And equally important is explicit documentation of our assumptions and our risks, because anytime we want to do a certain set of activities, there is definitely a situation where we may not be able to reach the extent of what we are committing to do. So what are the potential reasons, or what are the potential risks that we foresee in implementing our plan? So this has to be very, very clear to the donor or the investor who's coming to put their money through the ZCZP instrument. Moving ahead, the FRD is now the document which is going to clearly determine your promise. When the impact assessment happens at a later stage, it's almost like the FRD has to think through what is it that we are also going to talk at the impact stage. So impact is not an afterthought. Impact is completely baked into the documentation that we are doing, even at the starting stage, which is the FRD. So what all your FRD is going to contain from the impact lens is going to be what's your social problem, who are your target beneficiaries, what geographies are you going to operate in, what are the outcomes you are intending, how do you intend to measure those outcomes, and of course your timelines of it all. So as an impact assessor who comes into the picture to assess, they will first start with the FRD. Like, I will first look at the FRD to say, what is the scope for which I am doing the impact assessment? That becomes very clear in the FRD. And so the language that we start using needs to begin right at the stage of the fundraising document. Some of the key pointers that I have seen in my experience, and hence I have put them here, is in the FRD, let's ensure that we do not overpromise the scale, because it's going to be assessed. We are very specific about outcomes. Let's not use generic words like empowerment, upliftment. Even if we do, let's define it at a stage where it needs to be defined. Then there is, of course, the inclusion lens that I talked about earlier, risk assumptions that also I talked about, and verifiable KPIs. How are we going to measure when we say that this outcome has been achieved? So that you're at the beginning of the program, when you're putting these things into perspective, you have the system enabled to collect all this data. And when the impact assessment happens, it is a validation of what you have already collected, and plus an independent verification also. So the ultimate report that will come out will be a triangulation of all of this. It's not just about an independent assessment, but also through the duration of the program, what operations metrics have you collected? how the execution of this program has been happening. Has there been an efficiency in the execution? So all of this then can be triangulated together. My screen has stopped. 1 second. Okay, I don't know what's happened. I'm not able to move ahead. Yeah. Very quickly, so now coming to the forms, like I said, in the impact architecture, there are certain places in which we will report impact. So specifically, the SSE related forms to impact are the form 1B. 1A is talking a lot about your financials and all the other disclosures. An annual self-disclosure, if you are only registered as an entity and not listed, you do a self-reporting or a self-disclosure in form 1B. When a non-profit entity gets listed, there are two forms that again come into the picture. One is the form 2.1, which is a social impact review, which is for the particular project that has been listed on the stock exchange. What is the impact achieved, which will be created by the social assessor. And then there is a form 3.1, which is a social assessor's assessment report. So when, for example, I created one for Unnati in which I summarize all the findings that I had on the form 2.1 that was created, and I have given that as a final submission. So this is largely the three forms that we need to know in terms of when dealing with the impact assessment report after the program. I won't dive too much into this, but largely the A and B forms between, that is 2.1 form, the A and B sections are largely for what is the program about, how it has progressed, what are the KPIs. Section C is where the assessor starts writing their independent validation, what is their interpretation of all of the data that has been collected, what are the recommendations, what are the risks and gaps that they have seen. And what we assess in the section C is how has there been the solution implementation plan as it was given in the FRD? How is it aligning with the logic model? There are certain social audit standards that have been created early on during the formation of the SSE. So please go and look at that on the web, and how that alignment is in terms of the KPIs. Has there been a proportionate adjustment? So so far 75% funds, if they were collected, then the issue went through. So if there was an adjustment that happened, so I wanted to collect 100 rupees, but I could collect 75. So how have I proportionately adjusted my targets if I have not hit my 100%? The clarification of that is also very important, which the assessor will look at. And the outcomes, of course. The final report, like I said earlier, will be an assessment of all of this, which will finally be looked at by the regulators, by the investors and donors. And what the Social Stock Exchange expects of us as assessors is that we have looked at the need assessments, the baselines. There is evidence of program activity that we have independently verified. We have taken in the terms of the data that we are looking at. We have looked at the dashboards. We have looked at the reports that have been created during the course of the program implementation. We have ourselves done independent assessments through qualitative, quantitative interviews, focus group discussions, and any deviations that may have happened during the course of the program implementation as committed versus as implemented, those need to be documented properly. So this is something that the assessor's final report will look like for us. Again, through the experience that I've had working with several nonprofits and Sheena also said that at the beginning of her talk, that let us not treat impact assessment as an NDR exercise. Let's make M&E a regular habit so that there is documentation already starting to be available. If there is missing baseline data, have ways by which you can at least address what were the basic needs of the community when the program was getting designed. Confusing outputs with outcomes, I think enough is said about that. Another important area is negative unintended outcomes. So in the impact assessment documentation, there is an important area which asks us to talk about what are the potential unintended outcomes that you may see or you're already seeing. So that's an important area to report on. Think through what positive and what negative both can come out of this. There are several examples We are at a shortage of time here, but as you look at literature, you will see that even very well-meaning social programs do tend to have certain negative unintended outcomes. So how are you thinking about it? What are you doing to address it? And obviously, internal data systems, internal MIS, if they are to begin with at the time of fundraising, invest time and energy in strengthening those so that by the end of the year, by the end of the program completion, there will be a significantly good amount of data that will be collected. So I walked through this, so I will kind of skip through this, but I'm just leaving this slide on in terms of when preparing for the SSC. It's a culmination of everything that I said, that FRD and solution implementation plan, think through what you're talking about impact, build your basic data systems early where you're having your KPIs starting to get tracked. If you are having inclusion initiatives, track them intentionally. Don't leave that as an afterthought. If there are deviations from the program, then please document those deviations. And similarly, impact assessment language, we need to start beginning to use right at the very beginning of the fundraising and not at the end. So with that, I'll pause here. I will hand it over back to Dr. S.K. Gupta, and happy to field any questions, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Prajakta, for walking us through the entire SSC listing process, as well as the important essential requirements and the process of social impact assessment. Well, thank you so much, all the participants, for joining in, and the floor is now open for any questions, any queries that you may have. We have two experts here, one from BSc straight. You can get ideas and thoughts from the horse's mouth in a way. And then we have a very senior social impact assessor. She has done a lot of assignments herself. So any questions, any clarification that any one of you may require, I think this is the best time to interact with us, all of us, and let's see how we discuss things together. Thank you. So there's one message in the chat box where someone is saying that if you sell the ZC, ZP in the secondary market, then probably it will go at a discount. I think that's not at all possible, because we're saying that ZC, ZP is not a tradable instrument, It's unlike the normal shares, debentures, bonds that we normally have in the capital market. This is non-transferable, non-tradable instrument, financial instrument. The life of ZC, ZP is synced with the life of the project. Once the life of the project means the project gets implemented, it automatically gets nullified. I mean, that's the way it is. So there is never a possibility of it getting traded in the secondary market at a discount. If there's any further question, yes, please. Yes, madam.
So besides, yes, exactly what you said, Dr. Gupta, it's also not transferable. No?
Yes, please.
So just adding.
Sure.
And there are no financial returns. So I think when you say ZC, ZP, I just equal it to no secondary market, not tradable, not transferable. And the value is actually zero.
Yes, please.
Sir, I was the one who raised that, and that was more of a suggestion than a question, because what I saw in some cases was the donor himself or herself goes into financial distress. And in those cases only, I was suggesting that some mechanism like this could be helpful.
Okay, yeah. We have noted it down, certainly, and we'll put it up before the concerned authorities at appropriate time. Sure. Thank you so much. Anyone else wants to make some observation, comments? Maybe not a question, but some observation. Yes, Monica, madam. You're not audible. Yes, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I just have a curious question, especially on the donor side. When you said that we are bringing it down to 1,000 contribution, and both, whether it's instruments, ZC, ZP, and the other one. So my question is, I'm sorry, like IPOs are listed and anybody who wants to invest can. I think retail donors are also looking for causes. Like I personally contribute to 5 different causes.
Yes.
Right. So we all have a portfolio of causes we believe in.
Sure.
Now, if I get to know that there are 5 listed NPOs on the stock exchange, then I am wanting to make that contribution. So I may not know about that NGO in advance, because what I understand is that the nonprofit brings in their donors who've been contributing for a longer period, whether they are institutional donors or individual donors. So since the ticket size is small and crowdfunding is possible, and we are looking at, so I'm just looking at it in a very creative way, whether this kind of a mechanism can be made like IPOs, where it's accessible to larger masses. It's still in its nascent stage, but it has potential.
So, Ms. Gupta, thank you so much for
Yes,
that
madam.
question.
Please
And
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, so the endeavor is to democratize giving, right? Whether you can give 1,000 or 10,000 rupees. And the idea is, how do we engage investors that are already playing, say, the market, right? How do we work with them? So, say BSC is a platform. I work with trading members, or what they call banks and brokers. Okay, and banks and brokers are the ones who have access to the investors, right? So what we are doing is working very closely with the banks and brokers for them to go out and talk about what is SSC. Yes. Secondly, when the issues come up, to help not-for-profits market those issues. So then people like you and me actually find out that, oh, there is this organization that is doing good work, and I'm aligned to, say, um, uh, climate change, since seems to be the topic of conversation today. And there's clean energy, an organization in clean energy that I believe and align towards. All I need to do is, through my app, okay, whether I'm on ICICI Direct or HDFC or whichever Demat account app I have, I should be able to transact through that. The idea is not to move the investor to another platform. The idea is to channelize, okay, the existing investor base. So when not-for-profits come to the platform as BSC, um, they aren't just coming with their own donors, they're gaining more donors. And the minute, as a long-term piece, if you come back again and again to raise more money, you build more credibility, you build a narrative around the work that you're doing, which is far greater than the first listing itself. The first listing is hard work, I will not deny that. But I think once you're able to figure it out, how to tap into these investors, how to work with the brokers and the financial ecosystem players, you will be able to tap into it, and then it's anyone's game, right? If you're in education, I'm sure there's enough people who are aligned to education or health or whatever those 17 focus areas are. So I hope that answers your question. So it's something that we're
Yeah.
already doing. Yes.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
So-
Madam Sheena, I had a question.
Yes,
Yeah.
madam.
Yeah, so there is this often question that is asked by NGOs on how do we get a list of people who can be probable donors? Because even if they come on the SSC, they have to use their own, donors that they have, correct? And there is no access to the retail donor, because that's within the system of the BSC or the NSC. And so actively if they have to do, they don't they like Swadesh can probably make a call to 200 people and say you'll fund us. Whereas an NGO, however big it is, it does not have that bandwidth of people to reach out to. So I wanted you to throw light on how does a NGO really go through, because that is not their job. Fundraising is not their primary job. Their primary job is to get projects running when they get a funding.
So, Dr. Rego, thank you so much for that question. I think it's just a lead up to a question, the answer I just answered. That's the beauty of the social stock exchange, right? In the initial phases, because it was so new and systems weren't put in place, today we have a platform. We are on the same platforms that actually runs the IPOs, right? But yes, as an NGO, you are the only one who is going to be able to tell your story, right? To the public at large, to citizens of India, right? That are on the market, right? Now, I can only provide you the platform, right? You have to be able to market your issue. And when I say market your issue, tell data, evidence driven stories, whether it is amplifying through your social media or through news media, or which you may or may already be using. And something as simple as tagging a BSE India, if you're a registered organization on BSE, and bringing that up in the investor conversations. The idea is to be part of the investor conversation, because you're not going to, unlike IPOs, you're not going to have money to have a front page ad in the Times of India, right? And that's not the
That's
expectation.
exactly the problem, because they don't have the front page. They don't have a directory of possible, like historically, you have an NGO, you know who are the people whom you can approach. So you write a proposal, and then you say you have a name of 10 people, and then you start marketing with them.
Can I ask you a counter question, Dr. Ego? How many of your funders play the market?
The funders will not play the in the sense I
They
don't
personally
understand your
do play
question.
the market. So I'm saying that we have to stop distinguishing them. Yes, they may be your funders, but there are many, like Ms. Gupta said, there are many more people that who want to contribute, but it's visibility, right? You're doing great work in the communities. They want to contribute, and here's the SSE platform by which we connect the two. But yes, we, at least at BSE, we try and help you, connect you to certain banks and brokers who then you can sort of work with, right? You have a bank, you have say ICICI is your bank, right? You open an escrow bank account because you want to list with them, right? Now, the idea is, how do you market your issues? I'll give you another example. Last year, or this financial year, ATCF, Amit Chandra's foundation, decided that they wanted to help not-for-profits build that retail campaign, right? So they were willing to contribute towards retail fundraising, right, for the organizations. Because say I want to hire a social media person and I don't have that, right? The stories are with you because you're working in the communities, the data is with you. You just need someone to package it. And the idea is to build that support and ecosystem, because I understand where you're coming from. It is a challenge, right? But we are here. That's the beauty of at
Yeah.
least
My
the.
question, I'll tell you why I'm asking you. Recently, there was an organization which was listed. They did not achieve the target.
Okay.
So they came back to me and said, Anita, help us out on how you can raise the funding, because there's a 10-day window gap.
Yes.
They possibly had committed funding and they listed it. But at the end moment, they were not able to do it. And there was a fairly huge gap. And so then they came back. And then what do you answer to them? Because I would only have to say, go back to BSE, go back to merchant bankers, go back to your RTA, whoever is there, to help you find out strategies. Because in the 10-day gap, it's impossible to go to any donor and raise the money. I'm coming from a practical point of view.
No, absolutely. Ma'am, I have run a not-for-profit before I joined BSE, so I understand the practicalities of it.
Second part is that if it is retail funding from
Yeah.
my own contacts, most often than not, they are not on the BSE or the NSE. So there are funders who will help you out to raise money. They'll make the phone call, they'll talk to them and say, please give, there is a cause. And you give it's a arrangement of what is the cost versus what is the income gained.
Correct. So if you would allow me to respond, two things. One is we've kept and we've understood that 75 is high, and which is why I spoke about the SEBI consultation paper to reduce that to 50%. So I would really urge again all of you to actually give your comments there. The idea is, see, it is still, it's 3 years in, and it is nascent. There are teething problems. We are understanding. We reduced the application to encourage more retail. But at the end of the day, you still need to market your issue. And coming back to my original preparation slide, I said you have to start talking to your funders from the time. You can't start talking to a funder when you are opening your issue.
And
Right.
fundraising is if you really are in an NGO space, fundraising takes at least 30 to 50% of your cost of fundraising. This is an honest thing, because and where does that NGO get the 30 to 40%? Because what you are allowed is only 10%, correct? For the cost.
There is no in the framework. If
You
you
can cover the cost of the
issue
application.
related, yes,
Related, yeah?
issue related.
Issue related. So there is no cost put in for fundraising there. And I would suggest that we also incorporate that fundraising, because if an NGO has to do, I'm honestly saying that if I have to raise money for my organization or somebody else's organization, I have to go meet people, I have to have the flight tickets to go there, I have to hold meetings, consultations with them. Where does that money come from? Am I only humble?
Dr. Ego, sorry, I don't mean to interject, but that's what I was talking about in the fundraising document. It's called marketing your issue or issue expenses that you can add. Yes, it can't be 50% of your entire fundraising,
No, I'm not.
but it is a certain percentage that you can do. There are ecosystems of support that we are trying to build, because we want to be exhaustive. Also, I would like to correct, I don't think this was an organization that you're referring to that was on BSc. Yeah.
I'm not going to give you any details.
Sorry?
No.
No, I don't want any
Yeah.
details. I'm just sharing with you what we are trying to do to support this. We understand that fundraising is a large aspect of it, but
Cost intensive.
yes. But there is, in your fundraising document, you can add issue-related expenses, like you can add impact assessment for the project.
And you're fine, thank you. Actually, this particular question we all are currently grappling with, and any one of us doesn't really have a clear answer to that as of now, because I mean, let's be very fair to everyone in the audience as well as to all of us as well. But the exchanges are trying, SEBI is trying, ICMAI, SC, and the other two SCOs are also trying to connect the people who are wishing to list themselves on the social stock exchange, for connecting them with the existing donors. Not only existing donors, but existing investors. We have over 12 crore demat accounts in India. I mean, somehow if you get access to those people, out of those people, only people are going to come and donate for your project as well. Besides, of course, people who are out of this net as of now. So that will open up a lot of new avenues and vistas for funding. We are just trying to put this thing in operation. As of now, it's not operating in the full swing, that's for sure. But as we said, that SSC concept is yet evolving. It will take some time, but the whole idea is to bring it up to the level of where we say democratizing giving. That giving has to be democratized, that everyone in any part, nook and corner of the country can contribute to a social project happening in any part of the country. That's the ultimate dream that all of us have. It's a journey that we all have started. It may take some time, but we need suggestions from you from time to time. We need your nudge, and that's where the whole system is ultimately going to bring benefits for the entire social sector, community in the marketplace. There are a few general questions in the chat box that after registration, yes, you have to list yourself within currently a period of 2 years. If you don't do it, your registration lapses. You can re-register, of course, by paying the registration fee all over again. The due diligence process next time may not be as rigorous because you already have been there. But still, possibly you'll have to submit some more documents for the purpose of re-registration, which, as per the SEBI consultation paper, is now proposed to be increased to 3 years. That after registration, you can do listing within a period of 3 years. Because registration itself is not enough. End of the day, the whole objective of social stock exchange is facilitating fundraising for the NGOs. And that's what happens when you do listing. So only staying with registered status, not enough, not good for the NGOs, not enough for the entire ecosystem. You have to ultimately plan to get listed over a period of time. And now we are trying to extend that time over to a time frame of 3 years. Then on the eligibility, there is one suggestion that registration is someone who has spending of minimum rupees 50 lakhs in the last year and revenue receipts of 10 lakhs last year. People are saying, many NGOs we have also met during the program say, there are many NGOs which are smaller. They don't have that kind of a spend. They don't get that kind of a receipt in one single year. Well, we can put up your suggestion before the Social Stock Exchange Advisory Committee, of which both me and Madam Sheena are members. We can certainly take up your suggestion, put it up before them, but the final call will be that of SEBI in this regard, because we understand your pain, but then there has to be some threshold somewhere. In any regulatory architecture, there are always thresholds which are put for different perspectives and different things. But still, the suggestion is fair enough, good enough, and we're going to put it up before SSEAC in the next meeting. I've also put a small message in the chat box, so asking participants to kindly suggest topic on which you would like the next seminar happening with relation to or in regard to the social stock exchange. So if you can suggest 2-3 important topics which you would like to discuss and we talked about in the next seminar, that we're really thankful and helpful for all of us. So with this, we come to the close of this webinar today. Thank you so much all for joining us for this webinar, also spending your time. And thank you, the co-panelists, Madam Sheena from BSC, Madam Prajakta from Blue Sky LLP, for helping us organize this webinar for the benefit of the whole ecosystem. We have the recording of this webinar, which we are also going to put on the YouTube channel of our organization for the benefit of multiple people, other people as well. I'm also going to put it across on the WhatsApp groups. We have quite a few WhatsApp groups where almost about 2,000, 3,000 people are connected. So I'll put it across for the benefit of everyone, the recording of this particular session. So thank you so much. Namaskar, all of you, for joining us this evening for this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta, for organizing this. And thank you, everyone, for your active
Thank you.
participation.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sheena. Thank you, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you, Prajakta.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.